I'd like to take this opportunity, as I do each year, to talk about the Archdiocese and to reflect with you on some themes which I think are most important. 5 years ago, in his apostolic exhortation, Evangelii Gaudium, Pope Francis said, "I hope that all communities will devote the necessary effort to advancing along the path of a pastoral and missionary conversion, which cannot leave things as they are. Mere administration can no longer be enough. Throughout the world, let us be permanently in a state of mission." And that's the theme I'd like to reflect with you. The Holy Father's sentiment and his request are very much at the heart of the state of the Archdiocese of St. Louis in 2018. As you know, I recently authored an updated mission, vision, and value statement for the Curia, which includes a realignment of some of our offices, so change is in the air. But it's not a change for the sake of change, and it's not change for the sake of getting people to work harder. This is a tremendous, hard-working group, and I thank you for that. This is a change for the sake of refocusing how we spend our energy, pruning it, as Jesus said, so that it might bear greater fruit. The Archdiocese of St. Louis has 180 parishes. These parishes are the primary point of contact between the people and the gospel. Parishes form missionary disciples. Parishes form disciple makers. And our task as the Curia is to assist the parishes in their mission. Very often, our focus with respect to the parishes has been, we can do that for you. But we are shifting our focus to, you are the primary point of contact. We're here to assist with, and to assist you with what you're doing. That's why all of the ministry support programs throughout the Curia's offices are being looked at. I have asked them to eliminate duplication, to streamline programs, and to cut costs. 3 important questions include, how do these programs meet the needs of the parishes? How do they support the parishes in their mission of spreading the joy of the gospel? How do they support the parishes in forming disciples, in forming missionary disciple makers? As an outgrowth of that, as often as possible, programs are being turned over to be managed at the parish and deanery level. And all of our offices are getting out of the office and visiting pastors and parishes. So if you look out the door and everybody else is out there and you're not, you got some work to do. I think the ACA Speakers Program is a very good symbol and example of redirection of energy. Most of the work is done in the parish. When a speaker comes in for a weekend, it bears tremendous fruit. But the setup and the context and the follow-through are all provided at the parish level. Admittedly, not every program works that way, but that pattern, serving what happens in the parish, must be our main focus. Change isn't easy, but it can be good. Human resource experts tell us that organizations should continually look for and to embrace change as an important part of developing and growing their base. For us, the Catholics in the parishes are how we develop our base. The experts tell us that attention to the needs of those we serve calls for change. As the world evolves, as parishes change, as schools grow or decline, change is needed. Since we're here to help them, our offices and agencies need to change as well. Finally, the experts tell us that change offers growth opportunities for workers. It allows us to learn new skills, explore new opportunities, and exercise our creativity. That should energize us and certainly will benefit those we serve. So there are some good natural reasons for change. But above and beyond the natural perspective is the gospel perspective. Perhaps Cardinal John Henry Newman said it best, in a higher world it is otherwise. But here below, To live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often. We are called to grow toward perfection in Christ. That's a constant journey, and that means each one of us, obviously myself included, must change. Just remember, why we are called to grow toward perfection, that doesn't mean the process will be perfect or painless. We'll have to give up things that really matter, and that's going to hurt. How we communicate won't be perfect, so there will be hurt feelings. But if we're generous with each other, the Holy Spirit will be in the process. And if we let the Holy Spirit be in the process, then all of this change will draw us closer to Christ. And if it's all drawn into Christ, then even the hurts will bear good fruit. Let me give you some numbers to help you paint the picture. Kennewick Glennon Seminary saw its highest enrollment in over 30 years this past year. You have to go back to 1985 to find numbers this high. And the agreement we just signed with St. Louis University strengthens the finances of our college and pre-theology programs. And our 2-year-old affiliation with the Gregorian University makes it easier for every sending diocese to send men to Rome for further studies, saving a man an extra year, which is a savings for a diocese of around $50,000. In many ways, the seminary is strong and stronger than ever. But we still lose more priests than we ordain every year. I'll give you an example of the diaconate. The diaconate has 170 active deacons and 80 retired deacons. And for the program, it has 70 men in formation, 25 of whom will be ordained in June. We have both in terms of numbers and in terms of formation, one of the strongest programs in the country. But while we have a strong ratio of 2-to-1, active deacons for every retired deacon, in 2006 the ratio was 3.7 active deacons for every retired deacon. And there are still an additional 30 parishes who have asked for a deacon if one should become available. Everywhere we turn, there is tremendous work to be done. But everywhere we turn, there are still tremendous needs to be filled. And in spite of our efforts, enough seems to be getting further and further away. Last year, the Roman Catholic Foundation completed its Beyond Sunday campaign, raising $108 million for Catholic education. That's an extraordinary figure. But our Catholic school numbers continue to decline. Even with Beyond Sunday in full swing, the ACA raised over $15 million for the first time in its history. That's amazing progress. At the same time, the ACA lost 3,000 donors last year. Fewer are carrying the burden. Last year, Catholic Charities provided services to more than 110,000 people, at least 3/4 of whom live below the poverty level. In 2018, St. Patrick's Center marks 35 years of serving the homeless and those at risk for becoming homeless. Last year, they provided 36,000 emergency shelter nights, housing support for over 2,000 individuals, and 178,000 hot meals. Yet, while all this tremendous service is happening, the Catholic population of the Archdiocese continues to decrease, both in absolute numbers and as a percentage of the population. Baptisms, First Communions, confirmations, marriages are all down in the last 10 years, sometimes by close to a half. On the legal front, in October of last year, our 5-year battle against the federal government over the HHS mandate was settled in our favor, preserving our right to remain true to the teachings of the Catholic Church in the administration of health care benefits, and to preserve a culture of life in our employment activities. Unfortunately, at the local level, we had to institute a lawsuit in federal court against the city of St. Louis with regard to an ordinance which declares St. Louis to be a sanctuary city for abortion. This ordinance would make it a criminal act to insist that teachers in Catholic schools not take public positions contrary to the Church's teaching on the grave evil of abortion. Please join me in praying for a successful outcome in this endeavor. Everywhere we turn, our operations are experiencing tremendous success and tremendous stress. To put it in a nutshell, we have fewer people, but they're giving more, and giving more deeply than ever. In the midst of them, something needs to change. We need to consider very carefully how we channel the gifts we've been given, both the financial gifts of the people of the Archdiocese and the energy and expertise that the Lord has given to each of us. What it might mean for us is to rechannel our energy and our resources. Let me hold up one example, what the Office of Catholic Education and Formation has been doing under the guidance of Sister Natalie Meyer. During the course of this past school year, Catholic Education and Formation has taken initial steps to restructure in order to meet the current needs of parishes and schools. Programs or staff positions which did not support the paradigm of out in the field or current best practices were revisioned or discontinued. 4 staff positions were eliminated in February of 2018, and that was painful. But all 4 positions were services which were either provided by the Curia or areas which in the services needed to be integrated into the curriculum rather than continue as standalone programs. For over 40 years, Catholic Education Office has had staff persons in the field working with the principals. Basically, 1 person for each of the 4 deaneries. The current year has had 2 persons with 3 deaneries each. 1 person working with North County Federation and 1 person working with South City in the Archdiocesan elementary schools. For 2018-2019, there will be 6 persons working in 8 deaneries. The plan eventually is to have 1 person per deanery for 2019 and 2020. This allows us to have that individual working with not only the Catholic schools, but also with the religious education programs, training not only teachers in the schools, but providing assistance to DREs and CREs so that they can do a more effective job of helping our young people who are not in our schools. The staff person working in each deanery is responsible to not only connect with the administrator and with the staff of each school, but to connect with the pastor and, as I said, the religious education director, to strengthen evangelization teams in each Catholic school in each parish. The goal of restructuring is not to have more intentional focus on relationship building, is to have more intentional focus on relationship building, and to provide a higher level of direct service within each deanery. That's what it looks like for Catholic Education and Formation. Every department will have to ask, how does that look for us? How do we make sense of all this in the perspective of faith? We can do so if we hold up 3 things. First of all, we need to remember that the church exists to evangelize. Maybe you caught that in my homily this morning. That means forming disciples and forming disciple makers. Those things happen first and foremost in parishes. Second, like the Jewish people in the Babylonian exile, we are a remnant people, a religious minority in a land whose culture does not reflect our values. But it's not the first time that this has happened to God's people. This was true of Israel in the exile. It was true of the early church. We've been there before. We have a pattern for how to deal with this. We stay true to the faith, we form disciples, and we form disciple makers. And third, in the midst of change, the one thing we control is our attitude. Some of our own hopes and dreams die. Favorite programs end. Habitual ways of doing things change. What attitude do each one of us bring to that change? Let me give a couple of examples of an attitude that troubles me. On May 16th, I sent out a video message to everyone in the Curia. As of Monday, there had been 212 people who had viewed the video for an average of 1.32 minutes. The video actually was 5.5 minutes. If this was Coke or Pepsi or Budweiser or Monsanto, that wouldn't be acceptable. Why should it be acceptable here in the Archdiocese of St. Louis? On May 17th, I sent out a survey asking people to reflect on 3 questions. Questions we will consider again, and we'll do it today. On Monday, when I checked, 108 staff members had completed the survey, spending about 11 minutes on it. That number is unacceptable. And each one of us has to ask ourselves, why did I think I did not have to participate? I don't think these are signs of being on board and bringing the right attitude to the work in front of us. Let me say 2 things about that. First, I know that there is some awareness that my retirement is on the horizon. I think there might be some speculation about what that means. Maybe there's an attitude that we can just coast over the course of the next year. What I want you to hear, and I want you to hear clearly, I'm not mailing it in. That means my retirement letter until June 30th, 2019. And when I submit my letter of resignation, I plan to work until the Holy Father says it's time to leave. Or to put it differently, I'm going to keep working. I'm inviting you to keep working with me. I invite those of you who need an attitude change to look in the mirror and tell yourself you're going to change. You know what? When I need an attitude change, I look in the mirror after spending some time in prayer, and it's actually possible, even for someone who's going to be 74. And I know it's possible for all of you. Secondly, almost 50 years of being a priest and 35 years as a bishop, I can tell you that there's only one way for this ongoing work to continue. Each one of us has to encounter Jesus Christ. You can't give what you don't have. I don't care what your task is. If you do not encounter Jesus Christ, you're not fulfilling what this local church asks of you. Those people in the pews who pay our salaries every single month. And by the way, if you've already done that, don't check it off, because the Lord expects each one of us to be deepening in that relationship every single day. If we don't do that, everyone who has an encounter with us will only encounter us, for our task is to help them to encounter Jesus Christ. None of us, by ourselves, can meet the deepest needs of the people of this local church. And without daily and deepening encounter with Jesus Christ, we will only end up managing decline. And you know what? That is totally unacceptable. But if each of us has a daily and ever-deepening encounter with Jesus Christ, and there are so many opportunities that so many fail to take advantage of here in this building, everyone could actually encounter Jesus Christ through what's available or through what they can discover in their local parishes. You see, there's only one way we can grow, because only Jesus can meet our deepest needs. I thank you for being part of the staff. I thank you for being here today. I consider this message very, very important. Perhaps one of the most important messages I've ever shared with you. And thank you for your work. I thank you for the gift that you are, with the many talents and abilities that you possess. I thank you for the gift of life that you live so well. And I also thank you for your willingness to work for the Archdiocese of St. Louis. I look forward to engaging you, all of you, in a conversation which is ongoing. We will change. Believe me, I'm stubborn. We will change. Thank you very much.